Hello, 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 hello. This is I'm Brandon McNeil. Yeah, I'm back at it again with this blog thing, video thing. Going through my um, you know, my journey as a comedian, as a you know, employee, as a everything else. And my glass is still messed up. My apologies. Alright. You gonna see me do everything else in here but look at the camera. Today is gonna be something different because uh what else say how I feel. Don't feel emotionally stable, or not emotionally stable, don't feel emotionally in the middle. I would rather be emotionally in the middle than emotionally low or on an emotionally high, where I don't want to be happy and I don't want to be sad. You know what I'm saying? So, or I don't want to be depressed. Really, that boils down to it. I've had my I have had my long bouts with depression. I talked to therapists. They considered one of them considered that it was chronic. I've never really been diagnosed, but I know I go through it every now and then, and it may be something that hits me. But yeah, that happens. But today, I'm gonna talk about hopefully two things. Try to keep it short. The last few videos, I've been, 20 something minutes, 20, even one was probably going to 30. I was like, man, I got a lot to say, or I don't say much throughout the week and it explodes on a video. So yeah, try to keep it, trying to keep it a little bit short, you know. So I should pray before I go in, like, Lord Jesus, have your way, amen, and let's go. Um, I just came from the store, but before the store, I came from church. There's some different things going on, different things happening, and gotta keep it moving. I talked to one of my comedian friends a while ago, and he knows that I do the church thing, or I'm Christian, and a few people know, cause they know I don't cuss on stage, or I carry myself differently as opposed to other comedians. Most of the comedians to me, they are about the same personality, or they do the same things. They're to me like typical citizens of the United States. You know, there's who aren't going to church and things of that nature. But yeah, anyway, I was talking. He was asking about church and things like that. I think, well, that came into the conversation. You know, and I think Bible study came into the conversation. I don't know. I can't remember much. But I remember telling him, like, I go to church and sometimes there are people who look at me funny, look at me different, like, what you doing here? Or I told him about one instance where this person was asking me, they sat with me and having a conversation with me, and they all of a sudden, well, I didn't say this much, but they all of a sudden asked me basically, what am I doing here? Basically, why am I sitting at the table, you know, by myself or whatever, And I was telling them, like, I want to sit at this table, I'm not doing anything creepy. I ain't doing anything, planning something evil or whatever, something creepy and things like that. And this was a parent, and I should tell her, or ask her, do you think I'm out here setting up to do something creepy to somebody's kid? And I actually would say that out loud, because we've had things go on in the church where people have been doing that, and I'm not necessarily saying our church. I'm saying the church in general. And I'll say this: it's sometimes it's one of their own, or sometimes it's the person that we least expected it, and it's most likely not the person that we thought it was going to be. So I am very glad to disappoint them in that manner. Very glad, because that ain't me. And I would love to talk with this person just to let them know, hey, yes, I do what I do. Doesn't mean I'm doing something creepy. I'd rather be creepy with my future wife and with her only, and I'll leave it at that. But anyway, yeah. But we got to talking. I told the comedian, like, hey, I don't, you know, there's some things I don't like, which is, how the flock. Well, I should have said that. Darn it. Oh well, that's out the bag. But yeah, I was telling him, like, hey, there's some folks who, look at me weird or look at me like what I'm doing here, and he asked me, or he should ask me, like, why don't you go to a different flock? And that's the word that I was gonna wait to say, but I said it earlier. But blame me. But he asked me if I wanted to go a different flock, and I told him I don't want to go to a different flock because the pastor at my church, I enjoy his sermons. He he welcomes me and things of that nature, and other folks in the church welcome me. This is a non-denominational church, i.e. white. But so there's folks who I know, and yeah, these folks, they're some of these. There's some folks that I know they're genuine, like my pastor is, and then there's some folks who, may not be genuine or may be focused on their own, which is, I believe, some of them, if you ain't married and have kids, or if you ain't married, you may not be talking, you may not catch them, and these are the folks who are either around my age or a little bit younger, or things like that, and I'm looking at it like, maybe I may look at it in a way, and I may look at it because, maybe they're too busy, you know what I'm saying? I know that there's some folks, once they got married, it's like they disappeared. It's not that they disappeared, but they, became into that fold. I was like, what in the heck? After they got married or after they got in a relationship, they disappeared. Whether it was church, whether it was a Bible study, I'm like, all this time, y'all, but it's life. That's life, you know what I'm saying, But I'm the type, I'll stay me. I'll be who I am. This is just a different component, You know, being married doesn't make me who I am. Being in a relationship doesn't make me who I am. Being a father, is a different component, But I would say Jesus makes me who I am, and that's what I'm saying, But I told the comedian, nah, I don't think about leaving the flock. Only maybe I'll just think about leaving the flock if I have the discussion with the pastor, see what he says, just to make it official, I don't want to leave because of heartbreak, because let's be real. Even the pastor mentioned this before. He's been through heartbreaks in the church and things of that nature. And all of us been through heartbreaks. Well, not all of us, but there's some of us who've been through heartbreaks in the church. Some of us, walked away from the church because of it. There's been so many disappointments, disagreements, so that's a part of life. And I remember I used to go to church heart hurting, heart sinking, man, over some bull crap that don't mean anything. Now I'm like, it's 2025. I'm like, no, so I don't, I'm like, I've been there for over 10 years, and I'm like, to let one, or a few people, um, have me feeling like I have to leave the church because I don't fit into their criteria. That's bullcrap to me. How about they talk to me, about what's going on? Or how about they set me up with somebody, get married real quick, have kids so I can feel like I belong? How about that? No, I don't like saying how about that. That reminds me of that Catch Me Outside girl, and oh, she had problems. Pray she gets healed. But anyway, yeah, there's some of us who feel like, maybe we don't belong because we don't fit into some folks' criteria. And I'll say bullcrap to that. I've been told, no, being a loner is no good. Um, I disagree with that as a person, but I understand. Um, yeah, I'm part of the church. I'm part of the church. Now, there may be some who may think I should be a part of a church that is black. And if that's the case, then how about everybody separate, you know, be at a church that's black, be in a church that's just white people, be in a church that's just Mexican, be in a church that's just Chinese, be in a church that's just Samoan, be in a church that's just Puerto Rican, be in a church that's just Thai, you know what I'm saying? Be divided in that way. And I don't think um, in heaven we're going to be sectioned off based off of our ethnic background. And I don't know, we're hurting each other doing that mess. Um, and I don't like it. Um, so if that's the case, that's the case. If folks is thinking I should be, go to a church where it's only single people, I'm like, what? There's a First Baptist Single Church. I was baptized Methodist, so it'll be what, United Methodist Singles Church. Oh shoot, man, that's bullcrap. That's total bullcrap. To think, hold on, to think like, hey, you should go to this church. It's just single people. I'm like, what about the pastor? Is the pastor single? Does he have a first lady? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Oh, we are very tainted people. We're very tainted. We're very toxic. I don't like it, you know. Um, but yeah. And also, the reason why I'm feeling this way, I sound this way, and maybe you can tell in my eyes, there'll be moments where I feel like I'm left out. And I'll say there's been few Bible studies or Christian groups or whatever ministries where I felt like the odd man out. I remember when in college there was one particular group where if I was not um, if I didn't stand out, I'm not to say stand out. If I didn't look like I look like I had something going on, I didn't have the charisma or quote unquote swag. I don't want to use that word, but anyway, swagger or whatever. Didn't have the attraction, then yeah, I wasn't paid attention to. But I think that was a big problem sometimes. And I think it was a big problem because I believe some of those folks wanted to hook up with. I'm gonna shut up. Mm, no, I'm super toxic today. I gotta be a villain sometimes, but no. No, I'll say it seems like you hadn't have anything going for you, you want to pay attention to, and I'm like, oh well, I need to build where I am. You know what I'm saying? Or I didn't carry myself like the rest of the folk. I'm like, I'll be real. Not everybody's gonna be looking or feeling or acting the same. Even though I don't agree with Candace Owens' character, how she carries herself and what she says, she mentioned groupthink. I agree with that. I'm not into groupthink. I'm not into the group acting and behaving and looking the same. I have to carry myself and look like John Doe's clothes. Wear John Doe's clothes. It may look dorky on me. It may look strange on me, but at the same time, I'm like, I be thinking, is this how I'm supposed to look to feel accepted? No, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna, hopefully dress sharp. I'm wearing a gray t-shirt right now, and that's what I wear at church. Gray t-shirt, blue jeans, and I'm wearing these Hey Dude shoes. I have like 20 pair. But yeah, but if I need a style coach, I'll get a style coach. You know what I'm saying? Give me some Stacey Adams in a suit. Shoot, I need to get some money. Shoot, go somewhere and get me some Wallabies. That's my financial goal, is to get some Clark's Wallabies. But anyway, feeling left out, it makes, oh my goodness, it triggers my sadness and depression. It really does. I do not like it at all. Um, and and possibly I done it to myself, but I don't know. I do sometimes feel standoffish, or I am standoffish, maybe because there was something that happened, or there was something in somebody's character where I'm like, nah, I don't want to be around them. Or there have been some things where I don't feel welcomed. I do feel standoffish. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I need to have admiration, to feel like I belong. And maybe that's something I need to work on within myself. Um, I think part of it is something that started when I was a child. Something going on in my past that happened. Um, I did feel, I don't know, you know, I became a product of single parent household at 15, 16. That could have been the case, having an absentee father. That could have been the case. Or also, there's been moments where some family members were given the the main attention, while the others were like, and it's like either you fell in line or you just whatever. At my age, I'm more like, I don't subscribe to that. Each person has something special going on with them. I don't subscribe to that mess, because it makes some folks feel like they're less than, and um, and you know what's so crazy? Everybody has their moment in the spotlight. I also feel like that too. It's a matter of um, when, but at the same time, I'm more like saying, I feel like everybody has their spotlight. But my whole thing is, don't idolize it. So I have to learn that within myself and learn that with others. Like, everybody has their spotlight, but not to idolize it, put it on a pedestal, you know, and also treat people well. For me, I must treat people well, and not worship somebody because of their talent or what they get and things of that nature. Because there a lot of that goes on. You know, I may be talented at one thing, but I'll be like, what if I prayed to Jesus that it be taken away? You got to deal with the person. That's what I want to be. That's how I want to be. So yeah, a lot of Jesus mentioned it. I'll follow him, so forget that mess. All right. So what else is I'm gonna say? What else is I'm gonna say? Oh, I feel so country. I did graduate with a bachelor's in English, so I need to speak eloquently. Forget that mess. Comedy is comedy. I have my ups and I have my downs. There was one Thursday when there was supposed to be some singles game show. Whatever. I was one of the contestants, and this is the part where it doesn't get Christiany. But anyway, they started. I was one of the contestants. Darn it, and I won that too, by the way. But it was a weird one. But there was a question there, and they asked the audience, and one of the audience members asked, like, basically asked, does the contest ask if the contestants suck toes? And yeah, first contestant said something. Third contestant said something. I said, I said my weird one, but I said yes, but I had to clean it. Well, do the pedicure thing first. Clean it, put some cinnamon sugar on it. Oh my goodness, I was the weird one. Well, it was all weird, but anyway, lady came up to me, lady came up to me like, you suck toes. I'm like, I don't want to be that guy. Now, if I don't want to be that guy, but if I'm asked by the woman that I love to suck toes, I would do it. And um, there's some things I would do, and there's some things I wouldn't do. I know what I would not do, or I will not do. Um, and so that's that. To me, that needs to be, stuff like that is, to me, is for like the partners to talk about. And you know I really I really think it is one of those things, because what the thing is, what somebody does may not be something that another person does. Like, and there may be some folks who would like, look down on people who suck toes, yeah, you suck. I don't. I'm like, but there may be something that the other person does. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, if there are people out there who suck toes, there are people out there who suck toes. Oh my goodness. So we, you know, we are who we are. You know what I'm saying? Unless Jesus said, "Hey, don't do that." I'm like, man, but I don't. You know what they call it, kink shame. I would not shame somebody if they do that. You know what I'm saying? So that's it. There's some things I would shame because of the morality. Like going out on somebody's spouse. I don't. I don't go for that. Or that's the main one. That's the thing. I don't subscribe to that. You know what I'm saying? You know, and that's the one thing I, don't, that's the thing I don't mess with. But anyway, this is the first that I didn't need an antacid. I've been saying that wrong. I don't care. But yeah, I don't subscribe to that. I'm single. I've been single for a long, long, long time. I'm scared of people. But yeah, but as far as my journey and things of that nature, and what I do and what I don't do. But yeah, there's some things I will do and there's some things I won't do. Like another thing that I won't do, because it goes back to that feeling left out. Um, not to I do not want to cut my friends off, or basically like leave friends of mine out to dry. There's different ways to say it, but once I get in a relationship, it's like I don't really be around my friends of that nature. I've seen that happen, and I did not like that. Once somebody got hooked up with somebody, all of a sudden you don't see them around anymore. Um, like, and they used to be cool with the folks they was with, and once they got themselves somebody, they're not around it. They're like, who, or whatever. I'm like, that to me, I don't like that either. I don't want to do that either. That was I swear, there's two comedians, but there was one comedian. He wasn't a comedian. He was starting, I'd say. He was doing his thing, you know, but he was occasionally a comedian. Next thing you know, he was on Facebook. He was going out. He was going different places. He got in a relationship with a lady, And later on in life, he got married. In that in between time, he did something, but he did something on stage. But he he's married. I'm like, cool, congratulations to him. You know, um, seemed like he was one of those wishy-washy types. Hopefully he wasn't, but he was wishy-washy on that level. Then there's another guy. He was doing his comedic thing, comedy thing, and he got allegedly involved with someone who was pregnant. Don't know if I don't know um, the the gist of it because I got to hear from the person themselves. And I didn't hear from this person for a while. He was the type, he loved black women. I don't know what his obsession was, but it's like, hopefully he wasn't on stage like trying to, But he did do this thing at a poetry night or evening or whatever, and he did this poem, and it was titled, coincidentally titled, the name of the venue, or the and he I swear he's a sociopath, but he ended up crying, you know, in the middle of his poem and things of that nature and whatever. And the next day I saw him, he said, I hooked up with somebody. I was like, that he said I hooked up with somebody that night. I was like, oh my goodness. But fast forward, like, he got involved. The lady was pregnant. Later on in life, we see him, and I think it was last year I saw him. Because he returned to the comedy scene. He said it was work. That basically it was it was his job, um, and things of that nature. So he was around for a few times. I saw him at a Walmart one time with some children, things of that nature. But after that, I didn't see him anymore. I was like, all right. And it's not to say that some people need to be either in it or they need to be done. It's more about, to me, is the motive and whatever, because I had to learn this myself. If folks is doing it for a hobby, or they, is one of the things they're doing on their bucket list, okay, there's some of us who are, and then there's some of us who aren't. But yeah, but with those two, I felt like, yeah, they were, they were friends, and or they was on the Facebook friend list, but be around folks in one moment, once they get involved with somebody, like, they didn't see them anymore. Or, and that happened with some people in the ministry too, or they got hooked up, you basically didn't see them, and, like, that's what I don't want to do. Well, anyway, I got to stop right where I am because I don't want to go this long. I may have went over 20 minutes, but anyway, just had to get that stuff off my chest. My name is Brandon. I follow Jesus. I could suck toes. Oh my goodness. Um, Watch some Christians in the comments tell me how unchristian this was. I don't care. Oh my goodness. But anyway, thank y'all for listening. I may not put this on Facebook because, like I said, the topics. But anyway, thank y'all again. And catch y'all later. Oh, I'm a trip. All right.